to the government news brief for Friday, February 10, 2017. In the news, the government has approved funds for the completion of the Guyana Forensic Science Laboratory. Guyana is now closer to crafting a national climate change policy, and minimum standards to guide land reclamation in mining districts to come on stream shortly. Stay tuned for these and other stories. Thank you for staying with us. I am Renetta LaFleur. Now for the details. Cabinet has approved the sum of US $32,524 for the Guyana Forensic Science Laboratory to be completed and operationalized. More in this Gabriela Patram report.
Minister of State Joseph Harmon today at post-cabinet press briefing said that the IDE security firm, which is a Barbadian security company, is now required to take certain steps to operationalize the laboratory. Minister Harmon noted that the firm was responsible for installing security systems at the laboratory by way of a contract in 2012 and providing additional consultation in 2013 in phase 1 of the project.
Cabinet approved a payment in the sum of $32,524 United States dollars, which was owed to the company. And so that will now facilitate them coming and completing the laboratory, completing the training for persons who are going to operate it, and so that we can have a functioning forensic lab.
Minister Harmon says that based on the information that the Minister of Public Security gave to Cabinet, they are expecting the lab to become operational within the next 2 months.
There are several things which the lab has to do. It has to be able to look at DNA. It has to be able to look at crime scene, the analysis of evidence collected from crime scenes and so on at a technical level. So this is very important in our fight against crime.
Harmon told media operatives that the technical and electrical issues that were discovered a while back will also be rectified as soon as the contractors come back to work. The forensic laboratory, once completed, is expected to significantly boost the capability of the Guyana Police Force to solve crimes and resolve cold cases. For the Government News Brief, Gabriela Patram.
Guyana is now closer to crafting a national climate change policy, and the Caribbean Development Bank, CDB, has given its commitment to support the process. Details in this report.
Head of the Office of Climate Change, Janelle Christian, says the policy is critical to ensure there is collective action to mainstream climate change mitigation efforts across all sectors. Christian explains that her office has been in discussions with the Caribbean Development Bank, CDB, for several months.
We have received firm commitment from the Caribbean Development Bank to support the government of Guyana through the Office of Climate Change for preparation of a national climate change policy, and also to support the office directly by preparing a strategic plan over the next 5 to 10 years.
Christian notes that the National Climate Change Policy would provide overarching guidance to all sector agencies to help them develop respective sector plans. Christian further explains that Guyana will also be receiving support through the Commonwealth Climate Finance Access Hub to fund activities to better tackle climate change.
Guyana is among one of the first countries to be benefiting on the Commonwealth Secretariat Climate Finance Access Hub, and they will be supporting the government of Guyana by sending a climate finance advisor in the first instance for 12 months with the possibility of extension.
The Commonwealth Climate Finance Access Hub initiative was implemented at the opening of the COP21 Climate Change Summit in Paris to assist vulnerable small states. Meanwhile, local agencies have also come on board to support the Office of Climate Change in implementing and developing the national policy for climate change adaptation and mitigation, Christian explains.
We've been working very closely with the Guyana Energy Agency. We have been in discussion with NSORD, and given the fact that we want to really address the gap in public knowledge with respect to climate change and how it impacts on our lives. And so we would really like to have an ongoing public education an awareness program.
The head of the Office of Climate Change says while the office awaits the resources to develop the national policy, awareness sessions will commence in schools shortly.
The successful completion of a land reclamation project in the Middle Mazaruni will help to set the minimum standard for the practice in the mining industry. Tiffany Rodius has more.
The Guyana Geologian Mines Commission GGMC, in collaboration with Correa Mining Company, successfully piloted a land reclamation project in the Middle Mazaruni area of Region 7. Today, Minister of Natural Resources Raphael Trotman visited the reclaimed site at Olive Creek to observe the progress of the project, which began in 2015.
Government is elated that this pilot has started and has come to an end, and so I'd like to both compliment and congratulate the Correa Mining Group and the GGMC, in particular Mr. Scott and the engineers of GGMC, as we thrust forward into implementing and unveiling the green economy.
The Correa Mining Company has reclaimed about 14.7 hectares of mined-out land. Chief Executive Officer Michael Correa says the aim of the project is to develop best practices for land reclamation in mining.
The purpose of the pilot project was to establish a minimum standard for environmental reclamation, and more importantly to establish the cost of the reclamation project.
Senior Environment Officer of the GGMC, Godfrey Scott, says the project allowed the GGMC to collect necessary data to push for reclamation of mined-out lands in the industry.
A huge part of what we did here is to retrieve data. We have a lot of data, which answers a lot of questions in terms of timing, in terms of effort, in terms of cost.
The Ministry of Natural Resources, through the GGMC, will be undertaking an aggressive education awareness program with miners on the need to reclaim the lands they use as part of sustainable mining practices. For the Government News Brief, Tiffany Rogers.
The National Assembly last evening decided to send 2 bills to special select committees to be reworked. More in this Paul McAdam report.
The animal health and food safety bills will both receive the attention of special select committees of the National Assembly. The bills seek to modernize local regulations and bring them on par with international best practices. Both of them were piloted by Agriculture Minister Noel Holder. He notes that there is a need to improve the way Guyana treats its animals and food safety.
Improving our farming systems and the reduction in the use of antibiotics will surely see benefits, not only to our consumers, but also to our farmers, as they see reduced expenses and subsequent increased profits. Provision of the Animal Welfare Bill, together with the forthcoming 12 regulations, will lay out the rules under which our animals will be cared for, so as to reduce stress and eventually reduce the presentation of diseases. We will have to pay attention to improving our quarantine systems to prevent the entrance of exotic diseases, while at the same time we have to implement measures such as the Pet Passport scheme.
Minister Holder says that the food safety bill will see a food safety authority being set up. This body will ensure that there is stricter oversight of local regulations in keeping with regional and, by extension, international export regulations, in particular for safety and phytosanitary standards. These, he says, will see easier access for local exporters to more overseas markets.
Mr. Speaker, the government creates a framework for food safety through a system of rules, inspections and controls. But food producers remain primarily responsible for the safety of their products. There are limits to what the government can do, and in many cases the sector itself will have to develop a supervisory system. Under this Act, a food safety authority will be created. By doing so, Guyana will be following suit of the Canadian Food Inspection Agency in maintaining consumer confidence at a high level to alleviate concern. The Office of such an authority falls under the Ministry of Agriculture. The Food Safety Authority will provide for the consolidation of various inspectorates from the Guyana Livestock Development Authority, Veterinary Public Health, Municipality, Food and Drugs Department, Plant Health, and
the new pieces of legislation are expected to be passed after they would have been modified by both sides of the House in the future. Paul McAdam for the Government News Brief.
Another company has come on board to support the expansion of the heavy-duty machinery program at the Linden Technical Institute LTI. Sonika Thorne has the details.
Deputy Chief Education Officer with responsibility for technical education, Patrick Chinadu, says that the Guyana Goldfields has been added to the list of partners supporting the Linden Technical Institute heavy-duty training program. Guyana Goldfields joins MACURP, the College of North Atlantic, and the Marine Institute of Newfoundland of Canada.
That program is going good, however with little hiccups, but is expanding. As a matter of fact, recently we visited Guyana Goldfield. There is also a partner in that project. One of the areas that we want to develop again come September at LTA is occupational health and safety program that will probably train occupational health and safety officers in Guyana. Now, this is another partnership with Guyana Goldfield that will have given some financial support to it.
Chinadu says that the Ministry of Education is now looking at the curriculum to ensure it coincides with the local needs, especially since Guyana is expanding its oil and gas industry.
We are at the moment looking at the curriculum, making sure that that curriculum responds to the local needs, especially in the mining and the petroleum, oil and gas industries, and as well as the other local industries. So at least at the end of the day, the officers that will be leaving such facility will be roundly equipped to attend to any occupational health and safety issues in their workplace.
The program, which trains students to operate and repair heavy-duty machinery, was officially launched at the Linden Technical Institute in 2016. It is the first of its kind in the Caribbean. The program will soon graduate its first batch of students. For the Government News Brief, Sonika Thorne reporting.
We have come to the end of today's edition of the Government News Brief. The details of these and other stories can be found on Gina's website. Gina has an active Facebook page, and we encourage you to visit and like us so you can be updated as the news unfolds. You can also visit our website and YouTube channel. Remember to join us on Monday when the Government Information Agency brings you another edition of the Government News Brief. I am Renetta LaFleur. Have a great weekend.